However, I am joined by the Labour MPs Stephen Kinnock and Alison McGovern. Alison McGovern first. Given the acrimony on display today, there's a sense of such disarray, it almost feels existential. Can the Labour Party survive?
Absolutely, of course, because the Labour Party's values are good ones and we need the Labour Party to be in government. You know, when that exit poll came in on Thursday night, it was absolutely devastating because the Labour Party wants to be in government so that we can change this country for better. That's what we want. And, you know, this is really, really difficult and very hard for people, especially for activists who've just put their own comfort on the line and spent weeks and weeks and weeks walking around in the wind and the rain and the freezing cold. So the Labour Party will get through this. We just need to focus on the challenge now, which is getting somebody who's a leader who can bring people together and who can win.
Right, well, who is that leader in your view, Stephen Kinnock?
I think that Alison's absolutely right, that we've got to define the questions that need to be answered. What are the priorities that need to be addressed? And then find a leader that can best answer those questions. I think clearly there's a message from this election, which is that we lost touch with a lot of voters in our Leave voting areas. So that's got to be a factor in finding a new leader. It's also about security and having economic competence. So it's about defining the questions before we jump to the answers.
OK, well, I'll come back to who you want to lead the party in a minute. But just to put that Brexit point to you, Alison McGovern, you wanted a second referendum. Do you feel any sense of blame, really, that Remainer MPs like yourself were in a bubble, and partly that's what cost Labour the red wall?
I think if we forever define British politics by voting Leave or Remain on one day in 2016, then I think we'll never move on from this decision.
Well, it's you didn't want to move on. You wanted to have a second referendum, didn't you?
I wanted to get a credible form of Brexit and give the public the final say on going ahead or keeping our current deal, our membership. You know, I think that's a perfectly respectable offer to people who voted for Brexit and who now know much more about Brexit than they ever did before. I represent people who voted Leave in 2016 as well. You know, there are Remain voters and Leave voters in every constituency. So if we continue to perpetuate this division, then we'll never get to the heart of the matter.
Are Labour Remainers partly to blame for this result, though?
No, I absolutely agree again with Alison that on Thursday, a lot of people who voted Labour their whole lives lent their vote to the Conservatives because they were really angry that they felt that Labour was not respecting the vote from 2016. I think we just have to accept that as a fact.
Well, you're hoping it's only lent,
but they
5
lent
years.
that vote. Now,
It might be 10.
there's a tremendous opportunity for us to put the right leader in place, the right policies, the right listening attitude to those voters, and we can rebuild. So, but a big part of this is the truth. So it's about having a robust conversation about the mistakes that were made so that we can then have reconciliation. But you can't have reconciliation until you've had the truth.
Who is that leader then?
Look, I think that in terms of the big questions that I think need to be answered, I think that candidates such as Lisa Nandy and Jess Phillips have a tremendous amount to offer. But I think I want to hear each candidate, what stall are they setting out? Are they listening? Are they learning the lessons? And can we move forward on that basis?
If I may, I think Stephen and I might disagree on the particular handling of the Brexit deal issue. I think we would disagree on that. But actually, I think our analysis as to the underlying forces that have gone on in British politics and the fact that we need to restore the economic place of many towns in our country, I think we'd share that analysis. Yeah. So let's not underestimate actually how much agreement there is as to what has gone wrong.
Do you agree on those two names he put forward for leader, Lisa Nandy and Jess Phillips?
Both great women. And there will be other candidates as well who will make their case. Let them do it. Because at the moment
it's a truncated contest, isn't it? And that doesn't bode well for the sort of centrists in the party, such as yourself, because you're going to have the old sort of momentum-infused membership, aren't you?
I think we've got to leave all that in the past, to be quite honest with you. We need a leader in place because we've got going to have a heavy parliamentary 6 months of the year. We've got local council elections as well, so we need a leader in place. And I know that lots of people are joining the Labour Party. They want to be a part of it. Again, lots of people who'd left because they felt that Jeremy wasn't taking us in the right direction are coming home to Labour now. to shape our future and to be a part of it. So I say, let that process happen. Let's get a new leader and let's try and change our party so that we can win.
Well, your dad, famously as Labour leader, rooted out the militant tendency. Does the same need to happen to Momentum, which was described by the former Home Secretary, Alan Johnson, as a cult?
I think we can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach here. There are elements of what our manifesto had in it, which I absolutely support. We need a radical, transformational, investment-driven growth policy that's going to actually fix the broken economic model that we see. What needs to be rooted out and has no place whatsoever in the party are these bizarre conspiracy theories which led to the anti-Semitism crisis in our party, and also this bizarre idea that we should believe the Moscow propaganda machine rather than our own intelligence services. There are some things which are beyond the pale in our party. They have to be rooted out, and I hope that the next leader, and indeed the leadership contest, will identify those, say they've got to be out of our party, but then we can have a comradely and robust debate about how to make sure that we have a Labour Party that marries together strong on national security, strong on economic security, but also radical and Keynesian in its economic approach.
So you wouldn't necessarily have an issue with parts of Corbynism?
No, look, I mean, I thought particularly the 2017 manifesto, we can't go back to wishy-washy centrism. You use this sort of centrist term. You know, we know that the Tories have been in for 9 years. 5 years down the line, the country will be even more broken. There'll be even more homelessness, even more children in poverty. We can't just paper over the cracks. We need a radical Keynesian economic policy to rebuild our country.
Economic security comes from people believing that you can pay for your plans in government, and also feeling like they have a role to play in the British economy. And when you've got people in, you know, big warehouses treated like robots, they don't feel like they've got self-respect and dignity from our economy. And so we've got to have plans for the future that deal with those things. People can't be left to walk around town centres with dereliction left, right and centre and feel that we've got no plan for it. That isn't good enough. And so that's what we need to do now.
As far as a plan for the future, will you advocate and campaign for rejoining the EU, or is that in the past now?
I will forever be a pro-European. You know, we lost a referendum and now the Labour Party has lost a general election, but that doesn't change who I am or my values. And I know that it won't change Labour Party members' values or who they are either.
Very briefly, you agree with that?
I think we're going to see the Conservative government struggling to make a deal with the EU based on divergence. They're going to have to converge. There's a gravitational pull of EU alignment. Who knows, maybe the Norway deal that I've been advocating for a long time could well be the future.
Neil, Stephen Kinnock, Alison McGovern, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.